All right. Well, welcome everyone to today's Clinical Consultation Network. I am honored for our presenter here today, Mr. Adrian O'Brien. He is an ECF assessor and intake case manager in our Middle Tennessee Regional Office. He has years and years of experience. He is a graduate of TSU. I believe, Adrian, if I'm correct, you have three bachelor's degrees in sociology, psychology, and criminal justice, and two master's degrees in counseling and in guidance. Is that correct?
Yeah, the master's degree, one is in counseling psychology and the other is in guidance and counseling. So it's two master's degrees, three bachelor's degrees, yes.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Adrian, I'm honored to have you on today and to talk a little bit about case management and its effectiveness for those in the self-determination waivers and those that are kind of on the waiting list to get into the waiver services. So I think we're all kind of excited to learn more about your presentation and some of the successes and options that are available to everyone out there. So before we get started on your presentation, Adrian, as Dr. Davis always likes to do, is if you can share one interesting fact about yourself that most don't know about you to the group.
Well, I mentioned, yes, this is difficult. So I had a couple of safe things I think I could say, and I'm glad you mentioned Dr. Davis. This first two, or at least this one, if it don't work well, I'll use something where Dr. Davis and I had worked together on a case. I was going to say that most people don't know I'm a licensed alcohol and drug abuse counselor in Tennessee. I was hoping that's a safe bet, so most individuals or people should know about that. If that's not good enough, I'll at least share one more with you that Dr. Davis would agree on. It was a heck of an experience. So was that good, or we need to come up with one more?
It's up to you. I would always come with one more just to add in the flair.
Oh, well, I was fine with that, but I met Dr. Davis before he came on with state office, and we both had the experience of working with an individual. I don't think neither one of us knew about it. This individual seemed to want to spit in people's face. And you're there trying to do an assessment and trying to get a person in service. And that's what the person did. And that is a major shock. And you're thinking, didn't somebody know this? The deal is Dr. Davis worked with the same person. I think he had enough fluids from that individual over time that we both will be connected for life. So that's another story. I don't think nobody know about it but Dr. Davis, maybe one other colleague of ours. So you'll meet these kind of situations in this field. Okay, that's it for news.
No, I think that's a wonderful story there. And Adrian, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to pull up your PowerPoint and for the group, and the floor is yours.
Appreciate it. I thank Michelle also for reminding me some of the things that she's seen some time ago. I don't know when it was. Thanks so much, Michelle, for mentioning some of the things we're going to show to everybody, things that we can achieve, have been achieved, some of the things that I have done. A lot of things that we as case managers do. This is a beautiful department to work for, DIDD. I learned about it after I came out of mental health, where you can get a person in a waiver and get all kinds of service. All you got to do is send out a profile and send everybody, have a circle of support, and look for people out there that say, I will provide the service. In mental health, you don't have that luxury. You got to go find the services in most cases and the support people need. So this is a wonderful department. I'm going to try to keep this nice and brief, and I hope that you can appreciate some of the things we're talking about, but I strongly believe in case management. So some of the slides you will see is just some of the information where you demonstrate you at least went to school. This is one slide. It just didn't come out of Adrian's head. And basically what is case management? Now, they define it as assessment. I put screening. Most of the time, us as case managers, just doing some brief screening, especially ECF assessors. Then you're coming up with a plan. So you're doing a lot of planning, you're locating and linking services, monitoring and advocating. We do a pretty good job advocating. I put the information down there where I got this information from. So in case you all want to go back and look it up and get more information detail. I also put at the bottom, this was mine. They came up 5. I think this the last one, coordination. Case managers need to help coordinate these services among individuals, families, agencies, whomever, but a coordination is. We can go to the next slide, please. Also, what I did was went to see what we have on uh, online. You know, everything now, we all go online, we all Google, we don't know nothing else to do now but go look up something. So I helped you out. I went and looked it up too. And this is what we had, and you can go find out what the department say about case management. And it was basically, it said, provide support for individuals who are supporting the self-determination waiver. I told you I was excited about that waiver. And then it went on in more detail, some of the other things that you can read when you go online. That's your homework assignment. Go look it up, look at it, enjoy it. But there were things there, and you go to the next slide. There were things that I thought about when I got with the department. And here goes some of the things I thought of. What do you do if the individual max out their budget? We all look at the budget. In the SD waiver, people had $30,000. I thought a person was rich with $30,000. Sometimes we can go over a little bit. But there are many times as case managers, we see that people reach that budget and need some other services, and we don't know what to do. So what do you do if the individual is waiting on services? We have people on what we call an ECF on the referral list. They're not able to get into services right now. And so also I was thinking, what can you do to help the individual and their families? There's something wrong with me because I still want to help people even if they're not in the waiver. I must be slightly disturbed. I want to help. I think all the people looking today kind of messed up like me. We just want to help. So my thought was, case managers, we got to go out and locate resources and services. That's what happened to me. In many cases, some of the things you'll see that the services I found for people, no cost to the family at all. I'm talking about beyond the waiver. And it's amazing, many of the things, and there are people that want to help. You can go to the next slide, please. So this is one of the outcomes right here. And I thought about this family again. One of my colleagues asked me, could I help? Because the person had basically maxed out their budget, but they needed some repairs in the home. Basically, I think we're looking at a lift. Well, here go Adrian again. This person was confined to a wheelchair. And this person, when they came into this world, they were fine. Something happened. So when I got there, I wanted to do more. And I had an agency that was going to put everything in. What we did, we remodeled the garage section of the person's home. We put in a rolling shower. We made it this person individual apartment. That's what I wanted for the person, their own apartment at no cost to the family. This was the outcome. I mean, it's a lovely, I mean, it was just awesome. The mother, this is how she wanted to decorate the family room. Now, if you look at HGTV, you're going to get the feel you see in HGTV at the regional office. That is an HGT moment beyond anything you've seen. You can go to the next slide, please. The next thing is roll-in showers. As many family members just need to get some relief on their backs. And they may not be eligible for services, or they might be maxed out with their budget. Well, of course, I found an agency, that's all they do, is do rolling showers. This is an example of one. And this agency primarily focuses on even children. And that's what they prefer. No cost to the family. I mean, it's just exciting. We still talk, I still consult with them on different cases. And matter of fact, I got 2 or 3 emails today, somebody asking for some help. I couldn't help them right then, I will when I leave here, on some different services people need. You can go next slide, please. And what you can see in all of these, okay, there's another one. It's wonderful things. So to my colleagues, case managers, now this is a disclaimer. I surely don't want everybody to call me and say, Adrian, fix me up. What I want you to do is wherever you are, start looking in your community for these services. Right now, in my mind, you know, I kind of work for Dr. Harris in our regional office and my coworkers. Uh, but beyond that, I sure don't want to be all over the state of Tennessee. But I'm saying it exists somewhere in your community. As a case manager, reach out, look for it, so you can link up families with different services. You can go to the next slide, please. One thing you're seeing, all of it's fine. All of it's still good. You can go as fast as you like, slow as you like, all of it's great. I like for people to repeat it too. Once again, new bathrooms, the roll-in showers, the sinks, everything you see was put in the person's home. It's not just one piece. Usually when we go in, we're not just going to do a roll-in shower, we're going to look at everything. And it's new stuff, good stuff. And that's the thing, I think case management, that's a case management service. That wasn't a waiver service. That wasn't us sitting around trying to figure out what we're going to do with a budget. We found an agency that was committed to the cause. And this is what we did. And of course, the family's still proud. You can go to the next slide, please.
I will. And Adrian, I want to kind of stop you right here and just kind of
Yes.
explain to everyone, how you've been able to develop these contacts and these services. I know oftentimes it may be a little daunting or unnerving for everybody out there to try to figure out where to look and where to go. Can you explain to the audience, how you're able to develop these contacts? How are you starting? I mean, how are you able to obtain these kind of results at the end of the day at no cost to the families?
I think what had happened really was the first time I did it, it was a mother that called that really just wanted to live. Her son was non-ambulatory. What motivated me was her tears. And all I said is, I'll find a way. What I did was started calling around. And in one case, I talked it over with my coworker, one of my coworkers, and we came up with an idea. My coworker at that time was Helena, and we just brainstormed. Now, she helped brainstorm, but sent me out to look. I did what every parent must do. I went phone books. I started calling around, started talking to different people. Somebody would tell me somebody, and somebody would tell me somebody, and then I would find an agency or program to do it. I will tell people this to help many of the folks out. I think on my first major project, one of them, and Helena and I talked about this, Habitat for Humanities will help. Matter of fact, since I've been doing this, Habitat had came up with a whole nother component. So Habitat is just about everywhere in the state of Tennessee. They're on now. They didn't have it when I started, because this first project we did when we redid a garage and made it into an individual apartment. You'll see a picture on that a little later. They went back and expanded some of their concepts and things to do. So Habitat for Humanities is now doing different renovations. They got a special unit in just about every habitat in the state of Tennessee. So from Williamson County, I work with them. Davidson County, I work with them. Overton County, I work with them. And all of them now have this kind of component to their program. So I do think it's worthwhile to let people know there is a resource, connect with your habitat, tell them what you have, and it can go from there. There are other programs, even people at Habitat can tell you about. There's programs where they rebuild people's ramps. I just helped a family about a week and a half ago that needed some repairs in the home. It's another agency to do that, no cost to the family. So at least let people know, yeah, Habitat is now one from, I like to believe, from what we created when we did our first project to help us on that. But I basically just call around, network, family members kind of know somebody. I never send families to an agency unless I call them first. I want to make sure, I don't want families on a runaround, call them somewhere, then they send them somewhere else or somewhere else. So usually I call, double check what it would take. I get me a name and I get a family the name so they know who to talk to when they call. Thanks for asking me that question.
Sure.
Go to the next slide. Once again, we're just showing some outcomes. You can go to the next slide. So when you see this one here, the family was, this person had a person going to school. We did their bathroom, but the family was pushing the individual up the hill in a wheelchair, up and down a hill. It was unbelievable to me. Now, on this one, we got the driveway done. Had them to redo the whole driveway where now the person can go to the back of the home where we got a ramp and then also the other components in the house. But that was rough on the family trying to push up and down a grass hill to get the individual in and out. So we got the ramp. One other thing that works very well, family support funds. On this one, I was able to go ahead and work with family support to help us with the components of not only the driveway, but also the roll-in shower. So networking and doing it right. Now, for a person in the waiver, they can't use those funds. So it's obvious that I was working with someone that wasn't in the waiver, but there was a need for the family. Go to the next slide, please. And I think in most cases, we can go to the next one. This is another one. I mean, all these, I mean, this job is professional. These folks know just what they're doing. So there were lovely things we have for families. And no more injuries to family members trying to lift a person. That one there was the original idea when we came up, when I had everybody. I got Habitat out there, about 2 or 3 agencies. It was like a major party going on. People there just to help. We revamped that whole garage and we put a rolling shower, wood floors you see, couch, and that was that person's home. He had his own apartment. Next slide, please. Now, a couple other things case management wise. I'll throw some lovely faces. Well, I also try to coordinate with agencies. Sometimes my agencies might run into a roadblock on what to do. Sometimes they may feel the only thing they can do is take people out in the community to the park. Well, I thought we can connect and coordinate with animal shelters. There are many individuals we work with that like animals, but they also like to give and participate. So we started working on volunteering at animal shelters. So I had worked out something not only with the animal shelter in Nashville, Wilson County, Sumner County, and I had linked up individuals with those animal shelters to go in and nurture. The one in Sumner County, the individual I didn't know and the family didn't know, loved cats. And I would go there to visit, and that person in the room with about 15 cats, all the cats sitting around, and so they were nurturing each other. So sometimes as case managers, we could still help even our agency, provider agencies, come up with different ideas. Guess what? This also can happen in the shelter. Many of them have job type things, so they could be learning how to work. There's a lot of things going in to maintaining shelters. So some of them, I had them learning different job skills because some of the things the cats and dogs have, you have to wash up like the dishes and things of that nature. Also, they can learn a job of taking care of animals. So that's case management also. You go out and find. So I did connect with all those different shelters. Next slide, please. Now, I put teaming up with APS. Let me tell you this. I honestly feel, and I say this all the time, one of the greatest acts, one of the greatest jobs is working with APS. That is a department that has saved people's lives, made a difference in people's lives. And we have teamed up on many projects. This was one. This was a project when they got to a home. It just so happened the person was in the waiver, but the issue was things were happening to their family members. The home was, it was just awful. What we did on this case, and you can go to the next slide, we found services in the community that can come in and make a difference. You're seeing once again what it was like when we first went to the home. You can go to the next slide. And we found companies that came in, and that's what it is. When I told you you're gonna have another HGTV moment, they cleaned that house up. That's what was the after fact. That was the same home we saw where all that stuff was all over the place. You can go to the next slide. So sometimes you can find companies that can come in and help. We always don't need to move people out of homes when we feel uncomfortable with what we see. Sometimes we got to find additional supports so we can help maintain people in their homes, in their home environment. Once we cleaned that up, APS was fine. We all were fine. We moved to another case. You can go to the next slide, please. Now, it's another case I'll briefly just talk to you about with APS. Once again, like I told you, APS is on the scene of things that we have never thought about. This individual, only caregiver, passed away. They've been staying in a motel, and the person was under 22. Yes, APS was looking to get the person in service, but we had an immediate problem at that time. The person only went to school 1 year. The person's family member kept them in the home the whole time. I was able to find where he at least went to a medical clinic, and that was when he was in the third grade. He only went there just to get an evaluation for school. So we didn't have anything, any documentation to indicate whether the person had an intellectual disability or developmental disability. We had no other family members around. So you talking APS and myself trying to figure out what can we do. There was no one to provide any history or anything. And the motel room, it was like, just like what you saw on the other slide, it was awful. It was just messed up in there. They would have to almost condemn their whole room. But we had an individual that couldn't basically communicate much of anything to us. You can go to the next slide. What happened in that case, once again, with case management? Somehow or another, me networking with people, I found a psychologist. Because we have a system in our department that can do assessment, but the issue was they couldn't do it for autism. They were good for intellectual disability, IQ score 70 or below. This person's IQ score was above 70, but there were indications that this person was on the spectrum. I was able to find me a psychologist that did it for me pro bono, no cost, no nothing. We were in our department, uh, especially Bo downtown. We call him Bo. I appreciate him let us call him Bo, Timothy Hickman, but he said we can call him Bo. We celebrated this one because we had nothing. We couldn't help the person, but we got the person approved. The psychologist sent me the evaluation almost immediately. The psychologist also set up counseling for this individual, therapeutic services, all this came. This is about case management sometimes. Sometimes within our department, we don't have the resources, but it's in the community. That person, and I checked again this last week, is doing very, very well. And he's in a companion home and was able to link all this up immediately. I think we got everything for this person. I even found emergency home to get the person in because that motel room was awful. We couldn't let them stay there. You can go to the next slide, please. Once again, on the with the psychologist, it took.
That's our last slide, Adrian.
Okay, thank you. It took quite a bit of working around trying to find where can we get that support. Even with the pandemic, many of my colleagues and caseworkers had to do a lot of case management because the department sent us letters to send to families, and we call families and tell them call the health department. But it started being a lot of problems sometimes because the health department told families, okay, we can get you on the list. Then you have to follow up. The main thing is follow up. Get back with families, find out what happened. Some of the things I asked families to do, take the letter we got down to the health department. When they did that, things changed overnight. They said, bring your family in for the vaccine. You had to sometimes call your family back and say, make sure you tell them the 1A1 phase. And you had to keep following up with family members because sometimes they get discouraged. I even had to contact the health department a couple of times also. Also, we had to sometimes get an additional letter from central office to send. So case management involves a lot of follow-up, not just telling people one time something, but to follow up to make sure things have happened so we can link them up with services. There are many other cases. I can keep you all day with many success stories we've had from just a little effort, working with good people like in our department, because I think they bear with me when I'm out because I don't talk much. I just want to go look to find ways of helping people. One other case I'll at least mention, we helped another family member, and this person, their child was born with something I never even heard of. Basically, the brain, the hemispheres didn't connect. The cerebral cortex didn't connect to none of the hemispheres. So everything almost was being done medically for that person. The family was at the hospital almost every other week, getting a lot of operations. Somehow or another, we've been able to provide some additional service, not just somehow or another. The Arc of Davidson County had a program. Once again, Bo knew about it. I connect with the family, told them we can, because they needed specialized nursing services in their home. We were able to get them approved, at least get some extra nursing service. I sent some additional information down. TenCare was a whole package of stuff. We got them approved for 10 care. This is case management, sometimes follow up, looking. I never called the family back because when I called the mother just to find out the age of her daughter, she told me her daughter just turned 1 and they usually don't live that long. I haven't had a heart to call back to follow up. I know we've done a good job and I wanted to just basically leave it like that. And one other, I would say, success story with our department, we had a person who was looking at going to ECF and I went out to assess and the person told me they promised their mama they would never let their family member go anywhere into a residential home. We was looking at ECF for residential placement. And he said it with tears before his mama passed away. All I said to him, it won't happen then. He can stay right here in this home. I found them additional services that they paid private, because this person was working 12-hour days, paid for private services to come in, going, and things are still lovely. Because we was able to bridge it over to find a company to provide that additional service to balance out our way to keep that family together. And we kept that mama's promise. So I think most of the time it's just motivation and working with a fine department like I'm working with, and having good colleagues like the ones I have. Anybody have any questions? Sounds good. I don't see
So-
nothing. Trey, I turn it back over to you.
I
think
have a
we've-
question. I have a
Yep.
question. This is strictly for helping people in the community who are trying to get into ECF, or are these for people who are already in ECF?
Many of the cases, thanks for asking the question. Many of the cases you saw today were people in the regular. Many of the cases you heard, they're not in service at all. These are people that wanted services, either on a waiting list, either applying. These are people, it's just people that have a need. So if they contact our office and need help, even if they can't get in the waiver, usually I'm gonna go find them to still the help they need. And the help is out there in the community, still link people up with services. So to answer your questions for both and for people that's not in service. Any other questions?
So I think Trey's having some technical difficulties, but he's working on rejoining. But we can open it up for other questions. If anybody has any additional questions, you can type them into the chat box or unmute and ask Adrian anything you've got. We've still got about 20 minutes left. So I'm sure we can engage you in some more storytelling if we need to, or I've got a few questions lined up just in case. So while people are thinking about their questions, I'll just go ahead and ask you one of mine. Do you have any tips on, I mean, obviously you work a lot with different components of the system, different parts of a support team with the individual. Do you have any tips on getting people to really come together and collaborate around the person, with the person, in your experience?
Well, ask me that question again.
Yeah. So do you have any tips on really kind of bringing the different components of the system or the different components of that person's support team together to collaborate and work together as a whole towards whatever the goal is?
You know, the reason I asked you, because I had to get my thoughts together, because I want to be really positive about anything I say. I really think that all of us sometimes got to reflect on where we are, what our purpose and what we want to do. If we could focus on the individual and the family, and for people like myself that you're not dealing with any type of disability anywhere in your family system, you have to feel for the families you're working with, not in a sorry way, but how you can add to it. I would say just reach out. I would rather people reach out to people that you know have a commitment, want to, and it's in your spirit to do it. If I go with the university I went to, TSU was like that, where you come in with nothing. That was me. Here goes some more disclosure, with nothing, and they embrace you and they work with you, and you just carry the mission on. So I think in this department, there are many people that want to come. Maybe we ought to come up with, if they already don't have some type of peer group for the whole state of Tennessee, the people can just, and I guess this is a format along that line, where we just bond and connect and brainstorm and go out and have victories and come back and talk about it. You really want people that just want to do it. The things I have done, I just, you just do it. You just go out there.
So I think Sean has his hand raised. Sean, do you want to unmute and ask a question?
So I was wondering if you have any stories about people who can talk but have a disability and are in college.
Thanks for asking that question. It's a wonderful question. Yes, I got a story of a person. Think about them all the time. Now, this person was in college. Many of the universities now are working with people with intellectual developmental disability. Vanderbilt's doing it. I believe Lipscomb doing it. I think Austin P. This college was down in Jackson, and this individual was applying for ECF. Now, what happened with this case, this individual told me that she wanted to be a teacher. Now, I'm quite sure when we first hear that, we say, oh my goodness. I say, great. And what group of people you like, what you want to work with children. Now, we went a different route on this because I got with her mother and we all met at the kitchen table. And I talked about ways we can self-advocate. And I talked to the mother about checking with daycare centers in their community. She landed a job working in the daycare center as a teacher's aide working with children. We also took it a step further. She wanted to drive. Today she is driving, and her mama called me a couple of months ago to say, she was excited because her daughter family went on the interstate to drive. She never drove on the interstate. She just drove community back home and places of that nature. So yes, that individual is doing what now the pandemic has slowed all that down, but we'll get back on that high horse. So sometimes what you want to do is make sure you're including the natural supports. Sometimes they could find resources just as fast as we empower them the right way. So thanks for asking about that. I'm quite sure I'll hear from them by next month anyway, just to hear the different victories. I work with others too that's actually in college and have now transitioned to work and making things happen that way. I like that question.
So you touched on this a little bit when you talked about reaching out to natural supports as a resource. Other than Habitat for Humanity that you shared earlier, are there any other resources or organizations that you find you interact with frequently that others might find helpful?
Well, I'm quite sure there are many, and I almost had to get the name. The Habitat one, there was so many homes that we remodeled or modified that just come to mind. I just know that in every area. Different areas had different programs. So I wouldn't know. I know Habitat throughout the state of Tennessee. But I don't know of any of them that I can call right off that's outside of this area. And that's really how I want to help my colleagues is there in their community. Once again, I would say that if you all reach out to different agencies in your community, wherever you are, and maybe we can figure out a way you can send it all one place so we can always have that so we can pass on also. So that might be also an additional homework assignment for everybody next week to go find agencies in your community that provide all types of services. Even the shelter, they like to have volunteers where we can connect with our stakeholders to let them know these are possible opportunities for people to volunteer, but also to work.
Karen pointed out, and that was the other thing I was going to say, is I think Disability Pathfinder has quite a few resources listed, but I definitely think as a community we could all do some good at sharing more of the resources we find when we come across them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have another question sent privately. So in this person's experience, there's a general lack of knowledge about these services and programs among other social services and agencies. What can we do as DIDDD employees towards education and outreach?
That's a nice question. I think even for me, I would agree. Not saying this in a negative way. Try to bear with me. The waiver in of itself, it kind of help us not think too far out of the box. If we came through a profile and find an agency and look at budgets, we kind of stop right there. I think after the day, I think people will look at things a little different. I think we can empower each person to look in your community, talk with families, to find different resources, and even in your department, wherever you work, to share it with the people in your department. My colleagues know if they need my help, call me, and then we share the message that way. I'd say today is the beginning of that moment, I believe, for every department. The other thing we got to recognize that there are many of us that, yes, we do not have these type of skills, these type of skill sets as far as working with identifying the kind of supports. But I think after the day, people will. When you see those type of outcomes, and you know there weren't waiver funds that did it, basic waiver funds, outside of family support funds. Keep in mind, look at your family support funds. Those individuals that work there also sometimes know different resources that's available. Also, after the day, we all will be able to connect with each other and talk and help figure out different things we can do. Any other questions?
Yeah, we had another question. If you happen to have a list of providers that provide the type of resources you have mentioned, would you be willing to share it?
Yeah, I'd be willing to share. That's why I came on today. But I don't have a list like that. But I don't know, really, to be quite frank, if I get a call, like I said, I got a couple emails today, I just go target and I just think I work off impulse. I don't even work on a list. I just know where to go, or if it don't exist, I start calling around. Um, People tell me what they need and I just go look. If I had a list like that, it would be a bestseller. I could sell it everywhere.
That's
But
right.
no, I don't have a list. But it's sometimes you just gotta let the right spirit hit you and you just go digging. So I'm hoping I'm challenging everybody. Go to your community and let's create a list. And let's send them all to Michelle after we get it. And we'll make a
Absolutely.
DIDD booklet for everybody. I think that's a great suggestion somebody just made.
Absolutely. Another question I had, what tips do you have on building rapport with the family and the individuals you're working with?
Thanks again for asking that. You know what works for me is people pick up that they believe I genuinely care. It's all of it's I really do, and they feel it. I'm hearing from families I haven't talked to in years, and that's the tough part when you develop those type of relationships. Try to remember everything you learn in school because it's time to apply all those different things. Family dynamics. Try to keep in mind families are still stressed. I don't care if the family member's 20 years old because many of them are worrying about what's going to happen with their family members after they're gone. And you got to sometimes have that conversation also. You have to make sure you listen, not do a whole lot of talking on the front end at all. Listen to what their needs are and how best to support them. So it's I just think that everything we learn in school, the state of Tennessee do a lot of training. You got reliance courses. I know we like to get through those courses fast, but try to absorb a couple of those concepts when you do. There's so many supports, education, information available to all of us. I would say this, if you got people in your office that you know love to help and be there, you team up with them. And I think you're on your way. But this got to be something really deep down in your spirit, something that you enjoy doing, you want to do. You can't help it. You don't want to sleep. You don't want no weekends. You don't take no day off. And keep in mind, I don't take days off. I don't like to take days off. I get a vacation every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And if a family need me then, they can have me then too. But I usually don't work on weekends neither. But it got to be something that's really deep in your spirit. It's I can give you concepts on case management and what to do, But after this, what you've seen today, if you ain't turning up the phone and calling around trying to find resources, this may not be where you belong. You might need to be somewhere like at a grocery store, just putting some food in a bag or something. Because a canned good don't mean nothing, don't feel anything. Just pick it up and put it in the bag and move on. If you care about folks, after this presentation, if you ain't on the phone, something is wrong. Any more questions?
Yeah, we got one
I have-
more.
Go ahead.
So in the case of case management and the 5 basic services, would you say that time management is essential in this particular functionality? And how about structuring one's day?
Well, that's awesome. Time management, I ain't heard that in a long time. In this field, once again, I'm talking from agent perspective. Commercials on TV have a disclaimer at the bottom that tell you everything they just told you wasn't true. I'm gonna just tell you on the front end. I don't even think of time management. When you're working with family, there ain't nothing called no time management. You're just helping and you call and you can work everything in. In this job with the state of Tennessee, you have so much flexibility to do the things you need to do. The way I try to remember what case management is, I came over the term a long time ago, PC mall. Everybody used to like to go to the mall. And it's coming up with a plan and coordinating services and monitoring, advocating, locating, and linking. I've been thinking it for a long time. So don't think about time management, because guess what? You can make a phone call and get information in 10 to 15 minutes. And that 10 or 15 minutes, and if you link up a family, they're taken care of for a lifetime. That's real time management there, when you could take care and do something that lasts for a lifetime. But I don't look at it as time management. In this job we got, there is no time management. They always want something, and it change constantly. And all the emails, you just be happy you're working and love your job. And I mean, look how we working now. We ain't even in the building. How exciting is that? There is no time management. This is awesome. When you leave me today, you can go to your refrigerator. That's not even time management. Great question. Was there another question?
Trey, do you have a question?
Yeah, Adrian, I just wanted you to touch briefly on, and you kind of hit on it already, but a lot of the folks that have submitted, their referrals and they're waiting on services. And they kind of, that waiting list is long, and we are working on trying to resolve that. But in the meantime, what advice do you have for those families that are waiting for services?
Well, usually what I do when I'm doing my screening, when I go out for ECF, first I'm asking the person or the family, what are you looking for? That give me a clear idea what they're looking for. If it's something, let's for example, there's some families saying they need help getting a job. Well, vocational rehab is still there. They're still in the business of helping people get jobs. We don't forget that department. They're lonely. They want some work. So if people looking for a job, refer them to voc rehab. They'll get a counselor. They get about the same services they can get in ECF. If they're looking for other things, like I said, home modification, there are agencies now that are out there that will help them at least do that. So we can actually still help people that's actually waiting on services. Sometimes if a person have Medicare and they need someone come in the home, you can coordinate with the doctor to get them some type of assistance in the home. I work with hospitals a lot, work with doctors a lot. You just out there, you're knocking on doors, what type of service? My preference is that we don't have a lot of people just waiting to wait. So there are many things we could still do to help provide support and services to families that's even on waiting lists. We even have people on the old waiting list, but we still can do things. Thanks for asking that question. Any more questions?
Well, let's see. We have a comment that says, "Thank you for your service, Adrian."
I appreciate it. And I'd like to thank everybody that took the time to listen today, and all my colleagues and everybody everywhere. I feel privileged to work with the department and also represent our department. Our department has been very supportive, because as I say, I don't do a lot of talking. I look for services. And I might just say hi. So if I ever meet you and just say hi and keep going, I mean, if something's on my mind, I'm helping another family member, but I appreciate you. Any other questions or comments?
I think the last thing I have is just what would you say is your most memorable person that you've worked with, or case or story, however you want to look at it?
Well, the most memorable one we haven't presented yet, and it will be presented. And that's the most recent case where we dealt with a family where, and I was called in to do the assessment, where they were in a home and it's a dead body in the home. And I assessed the family, we got them services. That presentation would be coming. That's not what we have today, but ain't no way in the world I'm gonna forget that one. Even the homicide detective that called me wanted to meet with me more than once because it impacted his life so much. He felt he just needed to spend some time talking with me, that I helped linked up some services. So that one is coming, that presentation. I hope you all visit that one. And we had very, very, very good support from our commissioner's office, Adult Protective Services, and United Healthcare. We all teamed up in a way I never seen. It was just awesome. And we were able to help that family and help the community, to be quite frank. So thanks for asking that, Michelle.
And Adrian, you can touch a little bit on this, and not to get into that, but the importance and the reliance from case management, on a lot of the local nonprofits and local churches and other organizations out there that are eager to help, that just don't know where to go with those services, and kind of directing them, their involvement and what they can do to kind of help support families that are in a desperate or dire need.
I think that's a tough one. It's always case by case. As I stated, I got an email this morning, a family asking me to help, and I'll get back with them. And it's another agency involved. Usually agencies are calling me to help link up. What I'll do is I'll screen it and we'll see what we can do. Really, it's almost case by case. And the urgency is rough. Yes, churches call sometime, and it's just such a volume. So I don't know how, in a blank, natural calling and support help us get the job done. Once again, we'd like to thank everybody in the department, and I appreciate the privilege of working for the state of Tennessee, provide these supports and services. I don't know if I answered that in a way that we can ask. So it sounds like we all not connected.
Now I am.
Okay.
I lost you
Well,
for a minute there.
we all lost each other.
We've got freezing video
Is
today.
anything
Just
else?
entertainment.
Yes.
We did have one question. Someone interested in contacting you to ask a question. Would you be okay with sharing your email in the chat box, or no?
Yeah. Trey, can you put that up? Or
Absolutely, I'll be happy to.
yeah, we all colleagues, we all co-workers, so it's not a problem at all.
All right. I don't see any other questions in the chat box, Trey.
I don't either. Adrian, thank you for being here today. It was I'm glad that you were here and to present. It's wonderful to hear the stories and what case management does for the department, especially in all the regions. It's vital, it's critical, and I think that it's no small task. It's often can be overlooked or kind of pushed the back burner, but it does play a very integral part in what we do as a department and how we serve those that we support. And I think that you are a living example and a shining star as to what case management is in the department.
Appreciate your time. And thanks, everyone.